You know that moment when your entire world collapses, and it happens right between the turkey and pumpkin pie? That was my Thanksgiving 2023. My name is Sophia, and I'm about to tell you how one dinner destroyed everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and the business I'd given my entire adult life to build. The smell of roasted turkey filled my parents' Victorian home in Portland, Oregon, just like it had every Thanksgiving for the past 37 years. November 23rd, 2023. I remember the date because it's burned into my memory like a brand. I was arranging the cranberry sauce in my grandmother's crystal bowl, the one that had been passed down through 4 generations, when my father cleared his throat in that particular way that meant he had an announcement. I should have known. Something was wrong the moment I walked in that morning. My younger brother Marcus was avoiding eye contact, fidgeting with his phone at the dining table, something Mom usually never allowed during family gatherings. My sister-in-law Jennifer kept giving me these pitying looks, like I was a puppy about to be taken to the pound. And Dad? Dad was wearing his business suit instead of his usual comfortable sweater. On Thanksgiving. Red flag number 1, which I completely missed. Before we say grace, Dad announced, standing at the head of our mahogany dining table, I have something important to discuss with everyone. My mother's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. My husband Daniel squeezed my hand under the table. Our 2 kids, Emma and Jack, ages 12 and 9, looked up from their phones with mild interest. In the background, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade played on mute on the TV. As you all know, Dad continued, his voice taking on that corporate tone I'd heard him use in boardroom meetings, Mitchell & Daughters Hardware has been a family institution for 42 years. Your grandfather started it with nothing but a dream and a $2,000 loan. I smiled, thinking this was going to be one of his nostalgic speeches about legacy and gratitude. God, I was so naive. I've decided to sell the business, he said flatly. The deal closes December 15th. It's already done. The room went silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. What? The word escaped my lips before I could stop it. Dad didn't even look at me. Mitchell Hardware Corp. has made an offer we simply cannot refuse. $8.2 million. Your mother and I are retiring to Arizona. We've already purchased a home in Scottsdale. My heart started pounding. Dad, you can't be serious. We've talked about succession planning. I've been running operations for the last 7 years. I promised nothing, Sophia. His eyes finally met mine and they were cold. Stranger cold. This is my business. I built it. I decide what happens to it. But it's called Mitchell & Daughters. My voice cracked with desperation. The whole brand is about family legacy. I've sacrificed everything for this business. I turned down the job offer from Home Depot Corporate. I gave up moving to Boston when Daniel got that promotion. I've worked 60-hour weeks for 7 years, Dad. 7 years. And you've been well compensated for your time as an employee, he said, cutting into his turkey as if he'd just announced the weather. Your final paycheck and severance will be quite generous. Employee. He called me an employee. I looked around the table desperately. Mom was staring at her plate, tears streaming silently down her face. Marcus was still looking at his phone, but I could see his jaw clenched. Jennifer wouldn't meet my eyes. Daniel looked like he wanted to flip the table. What about Marcus? I asked, grasping at straws. You're cutting him out too? Marcus has been made aware of the situation, Dad said. He's already secured a position with the acquiring company. Regional sales manager. Very lucrative. And there it was. The betrayal wasn't just from my father. My brother had known. He'd made his deal and left me to drown. You knew? I turned to Marcus. You knew and you didn't tell me? He finally looked up. Sophia, it's just business. You're too emotional about this. That's always been your problem. My problem? I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. My problem is that I actually cared about this family and this business. My problem is that I believed Dad when he said it would be ours someday. Sophia, sit down, Dad commanded. You're making a scene in front of the children. No. I grabbed my purse. Daniel, kids, we're leaving. If you walk out that door, Dad said, his voice dropping to a threatening tone I'd never heard before. Don't expect any part of the sale proceeds. Not a penny, I froze. What are you talking about? Mom finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Sophia, honey, please sit down. Let's talk about this calmly. There's nothing calm about this, Mom. He's selling the business I've built with my own hands and cutting me out completely. Did you know? Did you know he was planning this? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her guilty silence said everything. How long? I demanded. How long have all of you been planning this behind my back? 6 months, Jennifer blurted out, then immediately looked like she regretted it. 6 months. Half a year, while I'd been working on expanding our online presence, negotiating with new suppliers, implementing the inventory system that increased our efficiency by 40%, they'd been plotting to sell everything out from under me. The business is worth $8 million. And you're giving me nothing? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad, I've generated 70% of the revenue growth over the past 3 years. The expansion to 2 new locations was my idea. The partnership with local contractors was my networking. The community outreach program that tripled our customer base was my... Enough. Dad slammed his fist on the table, making the china rattle. You work for me, Sophia. You don't own anything. You've been living in a fantasy world, thinking you're entitled to something that isn't yours. This is my company. I decide, not you, not anyone else. Me. Emma started crying. Jack grabbed his sister's hand. Daniel stood up. We're leaving, my husband said firmly. Sophia, get your coat. Daniel, I don't think... I started. No. Your father is right about one thing. You are too emotional. You're too emotional because you actually have a heart, which is apparently more than can be said for anyone else at this table. He looked directly at my father. I've watched my wife sacrifice her dreams, her time with our children, her own health, working through 2 pregnancies, missing Jack's championship game, skipping Emma's dance recital, all for this business. And this is how you repay loyalty? This is how you treat family? You married into this family, Daniel, Dad said dismissively. You don't get a vote. No, but I get to protect my wife from people who claim to love her while stabbing her in the back. Daniel helped me into my coat. Come on, kids. We're going home. As we walked toward the door, my mother called out, Sophia, please, don't leave like this. It's Thanksgiving. I turned back, and for a moment I saw my mother, really saw her. She looked old and tired and guilty, but not guilty enough to stand up for me, not guilty enough to stop this. You know what, Mom? I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I found out today what my family really thinks of me before I wasted another decade of my life. Happy Thanksgiving. We drove home in silence. The kids were shocked into quiet. Daniel kept one hand on my knee, steadying me. I felt like I was underwater, drowning, and no one was throwing me a rope. When we got home, I went straight to my home office, the one where I'd spent countless nights working on business plans, marketing strategies, and financial projections for Mitchell and Daughters. My laptop was still open to the Q3 revenue report. We'd exceeded projections by 18%. Because of me, because of my work, I pulled out my files. Years of documentation. Every email, every proposal, every strategic plan. And then I found it. The succession plan document from 2019. The one where my father had written, in his own handwriting, upon retirement or incapacitation, Sophia Mitchell Thornton will assume control of Mitchell and Daughters Hardware as majority owner and CEO. It was signed, dated, witnessed by our family attorney, Robert Pemberton, but it was never filed, never notarized, never made legally binding. It was a promise made to keep me working, keep me invested, keep me from looking elsewhere. It was bait, and I'd swallowed it whole. Daniel found me at 2 a.m, still sitting in my office, surrounded by papers. Soph, he said gently, kneeling beside my chair, come to bed. He planned this, I whispered. For years he planned this. He knew I'd stay if he dangled the possibility of ownership. He knew I'd work harder, sacrifice more, if I thought it would be mine someday. I know, baby, I know. What am I going to do? I'm 37 years old, Daniel. I've spent my entire adult life building someone else's dream. I have no recent experience outside this business, no network outside the hardware industry in Portland. We restructured our whole life around this. You took the lesser position at your firm so we could stay here for the business. We bought this house because it was close to the main store. Everything we've done for the past decade has been for this. He pulled me into his arms. We'll figure it out, together. But right now you need to rest. I couldn't rest. How could I? My entire identity had been wrapped up in being a Mitchell, in carrying on the family legacy. in building something meaningful to pass on to Emma and Jack someday. And in one Thanksgiving dinner, it had all been revealed as an illusion. The next morning, Friday, November 24th, I called Robert Pemberton, our family attorney. He agreed to see me immediately. "Sophia," he said as I sat in his leather chair, "I was wondering when you'd call." "You knew?" He sighed heavily. "Your father consulted me about the sale 6 months ago. I advised him to discuss it with you. Multiple times. Did you know about the succession plan document? The one he never filed?" Robert's expression told me everything. "I advised him to formalize it or destroy it. A document like that, unsigned and unnotarized, creates false expectations. It's legally worthless but morally problematic. Can I fight this? Can I sue? Sue for what exactly? Your father owns 100% of the business. It's a sole proprietorship with employees. You are, legally speaking, just an employee. Unless you can prove he made legally binding promises about ownership, which that document doesn't constitute, you have no claim to the business or the proceeds from its sale. So I'm just out after everything? I'm afraid so. Unless you can convince him to share the proceeds voluntarily, you have no legal recourse." He paused. "Sophia, I watched you grow up. I watched you pour your heart into that business. What your father is doing, it's legal, but it's not right. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Legal but not right. The story of my life, apparently. I spent that weekend in a haze. I called in sick on Monday. Something I'd never done in 7 years. By Tuesday, the word had spread. My phone started ringing. Employees calling, confused and scared. Vendors wanting confirmation. Customers asking if it was true. And then Linda called. Linda Rodriguez, our longest-serving employee, who'd been with us for 19 years. "Sophia, honey," she said, her warm voice cracking with emotion. "Is it true? Are we being sold?" "Yes, Linda, it's true." "And you didn't know?" "Not until Thanksgiving dinner." There was a long silence. "Then that's evil, mija. That's just evil. You built this business into what it is. We all know it. The employees know it. The customers know it. Your father hasn't been involved in day-to-day operations for 5 years. You're the heart of this company." Her words broke something in me. I started crying. Really crying. For the first time since Thanksgiving. "We're with you," Linda continued. "Whatever you decide to do, we're with you. You've taken care of us. You fought for our health insurance when your father wanted to cut it. You started the college scholarship fund for employees' kids. You remembered our birthdays, our kids' names, our struggles. You're the reason most of us stayed. Not him. You." That conversation changed everything. Over the next few days, I started getting calls and messages from more employees. 22 out of our 28 employees reached out. They all said the same thing. They'd follow me anywhere. On December 1st, I met with a business attorney named Patricia Chen, who specialized in small business formation. I told her everything. "You want revenge?" she said bluntly. "No," I corrected her. "I want justice. I want to build something that's actually mine, and I want to show my father that I don't need his business to succeed." "That sounds like revenge dressed in ambition," she said with a slight smile. "I like it. Let's talk strategy." Over the next week, I did something I'd never done before. I planned for myself. Not for the family business, not for my father's approval. For me, Patricia helped me form a new LLC, Sophia's Superior Hardware and Home. I know, not the most creative name, but it was mine. I used our savings, $30,000 that Daniel and I had been keeping for Emma's college fund. He didn't hesitate. "College funds can be rebuilt," he said. "Your dignity and future can't. Do it." I secured a location 3 blocks from our main Mitchell & Daughters store, a building that had been sitting empty for months. The owner, a customer of ours for years, gave me a sweetheart deal on the lease when he heard what happened. Apparently, my father's betrayal had made the rounds in the Portland small business community. People remembered how I'd helped them over the years. I approached key suppliers. Mitchell & Daughters had exclusive distribution agreements with several brands, but I'd built personal relationships with many sales reps over the years. They were willing to work with me, especially since many had been frustrated with my father's stubbornness about inventory and pricing. And then I did something that felt both terrifying and liberating. I went to our employees. On December 8th, 1 week before the sale was set to close, I called a meeting at a local coffee shop. 20 employees showed up. I stood in front of them, feeling more vulnerable than I'd ever felt. "You all know what happened," I started. "My father sold the business without telling me. After 7 years of running operations, after building our revenue by over 300%, after treating this business like it was my own child, he cut me out completely." Heads nodded. Linda squeezed my hand. "I'm starting my own hardware store, 3 blocks from our current main location. I'm calling it Sophia's Superior Hardware and Home. I can't promise you everything will be smooth. I can't promise we'll be profitable in the first year, but I can promise you this. You will be valued. You will be respected. And when this business succeeds, not if, but when, you will share in that success." I outlined my plan. Competitive salaries, profit sharing, full health benefits from day one, a real voice in how the business operates. "I'm not asking you to quit your jobs right now," I continued. "The sale closes in a week. You'll be employed by the new company. But when they inevitably start making changes, cutting corners, treating you like numbers instead of people, I'll be here. We'll be here, building something better." "I'm in," Linda said immediately. "I've been waiting for you to do something like this. I'm giving my notice tomorrow." "Linda, wait," I protested. "You don't have to." "Mija, I'm 61 years old. I've worked retail my whole life. I know loyalty when I see it, and I know betrayal. Your father betrayed you. I'm not working for whoever buys that business. I'm working for you." One by one, others spoke up. By the end of the meeting, 18 employees had committed to joining me. 18 out of 28, the backbone of our operation. On December 14th, the day before the sale was set to close, I got a call from my father. I almost didn't answer. "Sophia, we need to talk." "Now you want to talk? 2 weeks later?" "Don't be dramatic. I'm calling to inform you that your last day will be December 15th. Your final paycheck and severance, 3-month salary, will be direct deposited. I expect you to return all company property, including your laptop, phone, and keys, by end of business tomorrow." "Already done, Dad. I FedExed them this morning." There was a pause. "What?" I quit. "Effective immediately. I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction of firing me." "Sophia, don't be stupid. You need that severance. Where are you going to work? Who's going to hire a 37-year-old hardware store manager with no recent experience anywhere else?" "I'm hiring myself, Dad. I'm opening my own store." Another pause. Longer this time. "You're what?" "I'm opening Sophia's Superior Hardware and Home. We open January 2nd, 2024, 3 blocks from your old main location. And just so you know, 18 of your best employees are coming with me, including Linda, Tom, Marcus, not your son, the other Marcus, Sarah, Jennifer, yes, a different Jennifer, and pretty much everyone who made that business actually run." I could hear him breathing hard. "You can't do this. You're violating—" "I'm violating nothing." I checked with my attorney. There was no non-compete clause in my employment contract, because you never thought I'd leave. There's no agreement preventing me from opening a competing business. And there's certainly no agreement preventing your employees from seeking better opportunities. This is betrayal, Sophia. After everything I've done for you. Everything you've done for me. I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. "You mean like promising me ownership and then selling without telling me? Like treating me like an employee after 7 years of building your business? Like choosing money over your daughter? That kind of doing things for me? You'll fail. You have no capital, no credit, no experience running your own business." "You're right about one thing, Dad. I have no experience running my own business, but I have 7 years' experience running yours. And I did it better than you ever did. Your revenue was stagnant for a decade before I took over operations. So yeah, I'll take my chances. Your mother is very upset about this. Then Mom should have stood up for me at Thanksgiving. She should have told you that what you were doing was wrong. She should have acted like a mother instead of a silent accomplice. Don't talk about your mother that way. I'll talk to her directly when she's ready to have an actual conversation. Until then, tell her I hope Arizona is everything she dreamed of." "Goodbye, Dad." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt alive for the first time in weeks. The next few weeks were chaos. Beautiful, terrifying chaos. We renovated the new space, working 16-hour days. Emma and Jack came after school to help paint. Daniel took a week off work to help build shelving units. My new employees pitched in during their off hours, transforming the empty building into a warm, welcoming hardware store. We incorporated touches that Mitchell & Daughters never had. A kids' corner with free workshops on basic building skills, a community bulletin board, a coffee station, a senior discount day every Wednesday. We painted the walls a warm sage green instead of the sterile white of the old store. On December 29th, 3 days before our grand opening, Marcus showed up. "My brother, not my employee. Can we talk?" he asked, standing awkwardly in the doorway. Part of me wanted to tell him to leave, but he was still my brother. 5 minutes. We sat on the paint-stained folding chairs in what would become our break room. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "I was a coward. Dad told me 6 months ago, made me promise not to tell you, and I went along with it. I chose wrong. You chose yourself." "Yeah, I did. And I've been miserable ever since. Jennifer's barely speaking to me. She's been volunteering here, helping with inventory. She said she needed to do something right. I didn't know that. Different Jennifer. My sister-in-law was named Jennifer too, which had always been confusing." "The new company is already making changes," Marcus continued. "They've cut staff, changed suppliers to cheaper options. They're running Mitchell & Daughters into the ground for short-term profits. Everything you built is being destroyed. That's not my problem anymore. I know, but it should be Dad's wake-up call. It won't be, but it should be." He stood up. "I know you probably can't forgive me, but I wanted you to know I'm sorry, and I'm proud of you. This place is going to be amazing." He left before I could respond. On January 2nd, 2024, we opened our doors. I was terrified. What if no one came? What if Dad was right and I'd fail? The line was out the door. Customers from Mitchell & Daughters showed up. Contractors I'd worked with for years, neighbors, local business owners, people who'd heard my story and wanted to support me. By the end of our first day, we'd done $15,000 in sales. By the end of January, we were profitable. By the end of March, we'd exceeded my first-year projections. In April, Mitchell & Daughters' main location, the one 3 blocks away, closed. The new corporate owners consolidated to just one location on the outskirts of town. Foot traffic dropped by 60%. Many of our old customers came to us instead. In May, I got a letter from my mother. A real handwritten letter, not an email or text. "Dear Sophia, I've been trying to write this letter for months, but every time I start, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. Feels too small for what your father and I did to you. We betrayed your trust and your loyalty. I was a coward. I knew what your father was planning, and I didn't stop him. I told myself it was his decision to make, that it was his business, that you'd understand eventually. I was wrong about all of it. Your father is miserable. He won't admit it, but I see it. He thought retirement would be freedom, but he's lost without the business. And watching your success while Mitchell & Daughters struggles under new ownership, it's eating him alive. I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm not even asking you to forgive me, but I'm asking if we can talk. I miss my daughter. I miss my grandchildren. I miss the family we used to be, even if we can never get that back completely. I understand if you're not ready. Take all the time you need. Love, Mommy cried reading it. Not because it fixed anything, but because it was honest. It was the first honest thing anyone in my family had said to me since that awful Thanksgiving dinner. I wasn't ready to see them. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. But I wrote back, "Mom, thank you for the letter. You're right, that sorry feels too small. I'm not ready to see you or Dad yet. I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. But I appreciate your honesty. Emma and Jack ask about you sometimes. They don't understand why we don't visit anymore. I've tried to explain it in ways they can understand, but it's hard. Maybe someday, when I've healed more, we can figure out what a relationship looks like between us. I hope you're happy in Arizona, even if Dad isn't." Sophia, June brought unexpected news. The company that bought Mitchell & Daughters was filing for bankruptcy. They'd overextended themselves, buying up small hardware stores across the region and running them into the ground with cost-cutting measures. Our old store would close permanently. My father called me for the first time in 6 months. "Sophia, Dad, I need to tell you something. The buyers are bankrupt. Mitchell & Daughters is closing. 42 years of business gone." I waited. I wasn't going to make this easy. "You were right," he said finally, his voice breaking. "About everything. I destroyed what we built. I destroyed our family. I destroyed my legacy. And for what? Money that's mostly gone now anyway. Bad investments, the Arizona house market crash, hospital bills. Mom didn't want to tell you, but I had a heart attack in March. The medical expenses. You had a heart attack? Minor one. I'm fine. But it made me think about what really matters. And I realized I don't have what matters anymore. I don't have my business. I don't have my daughter. My son barely speaks to me. I chose wrong, Sophia. I chose so wrong. Part of me, a big part, wanted to hurt him back. To tell him he deserved everything he got. That karma was real and poetic and perfect. But I was tired. Tired of anger. Tired of bitterness. Tired of carrying around this weight. I'm sorry about your heart attack, Dad. I'm glad you're okay. Can we talk? Can I see you? I know I don't deserve it, but not yet. Maybe someday, but not yet. I'm building something good here, Dad. Something that's mine. Something that treats people right. And I can't risk that progress by diving back into family drama before I'm ready. I understand. Sophia, yeah? Your store, I've driven by it. I've seen the line of customers. The happy employees. The community events. You built something better than I ever did. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. I closed my eyes against fresh tears. Thanks, Dad. That means something even now. We hung up. It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was honest. And that was something. By September, Sophia's Superior Hardware had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We hired 12 additional employees. We opened a second location. We started an apprenticeship program with local high schools, teaching kids real trade skills. Emma and Jack worked part-time at the store, learning business from the ground up, not as entitled heirs, but as actual employees earning their paychecks. I watched them interact with customers, solve problems, work alongside our team. They were learning what I'd had to learn the hard way. Respect is earned, not inherited. On Thanksgiving Day 2024, Daniel, the kids, and I hosted our own dinner. Just us. I made turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce, the whole traditional spread. But it felt different this time. It felt like our own tradition, not something we were obligated to perform. Can I say what I'm thankful for? Emma asked as we sat down. Of course, honey. I'm thankful for Mom's bravery, for showing us that when people treat you wrong, you don't have to just take it. You can build something better, Jack nodded. And I'm thankful we don't have to go to Grandpa's house and pretend everything's okay when it's not. Daniel laughed. I'm thankful for brutal honesty, apparently. I'm thankful for second chances, I said. For the employees who believed in me. For the customers who supported us. For my husband who never doubted me. For my kids who adapted to chaos without complaint. And I'm thankful for the worst Thanksgiving of my life, because it freed me from living someone else's dream. We clinked our glasses together. Sparkling cider for the kids. Wine for the adults. My phone buzzed with a text from Linda. Happy Thanksgiving, boss. Don't work too hard tomorrow. The Friday sale prep is handled. Then another from my mother. Thinking of you today. Love you. No pressure to respond. And one more, surprisingly, from Marcus. Remember when we were kids and used to steal bites of turkey before dinner? Those were good times. Hope you're having a good day, sis. You deserve it. I responded to all of them. Short, kind messages, because healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments, small gestures, small steps forward. As of today, October 21st, 2025, Sophia's Superior Hardware has 3 locations across Portland. We employ 47 people. We've become known for fair wages, excellent customer service, and genuine community involvement. Last month, the Portland Business Journal named us Small Business of the Year. I still haven't fully reconciled with my father. We talk occasionally, surface-level conversations about weather and health. My mother visits every few months, slowly rebuilding trust. Marcus and I have dinner once a month, working on repairing what was broken. It's not the family I thought I'd have. But it's the family I have, and we're all doing the work to make it better. Yesterday, a young woman came into our main store. She looked nervous, holding a folder full of papers. Are you Sophia? She asked. I am. How can I help you? My name is Rachel. I've been working at my family's plumbing supply business for 8 years. My dad just told me he's selling, and I'm getting nothing. Her voice cracked. Someone told me about your story. I Googled you. I read articles. And I needed to know if what they say is true. Can you really come back from something like this? I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw myself 2 years ago, devastated, betrayed, lost. Come to my office, I said. Let's talk. We spent 2 hours together. I told her everything. The pain, the fear, the anger, but also the liberation, the growth, the unexpected joy of building something that was truly mine. I gave her Patricia Chen's number. I offered advice on business planning, funding, employee relations. It's going to be hard, I told her honestly. The hardest thing you've ever done. Some days you'll want to quit. Some days you'll wonder if your father was right and you're going to fail. But Rachel, here's what I learned. Being betrayed by family doesn't define you. How you respond to that betrayal defines you. What if I can't do it? Then you'll find another path. But what if you can? What if you build something amazing? What if, 2 years from now, you're the one a scared young woman comes to for advice? Isn't that possibility worth the risk? She left with tears in her eyes, but also with something I recognized. Hope. Fierce, determined hope. That night, I stood in our main store after closing. The lights were dimmed. The shelves were fully stocked. The cash registers balanced. Everything was clean, organized, ready for tomorrow's customers. This was mine. Built from betrayal, forged in anger, sustained by sheer stubborn determination, but most importantly, built with integrity, respect, and genuine care for the people who made it possible. My phone rang. Mom. Hi, honey. I hope I'm not calling too late. No, Mom, it's fine. What's up? Your father and I were talking. Well, I was talking and he was listening, which is progress. She laughed softly. We'd like to come visit for Christmas. Not to stay with you, we'll get a hotel. But we'd like to see the kids. See you. If you're ready. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Was I ready? Okay, I said finally. Christmas. But Mom, I need you to understand something. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. I don't need Dad's approval anymore. I don't need his apology to be whole. I've built a life that works without his validation. If you come, it has to be as equals, not as a parent trying to fix their disappointed child. I understand. And Sophia? You shouldn't be the same person you were 2 years ago. That person was amazing, but she was living in someone else's shadow. The person you are now, she's standing in her own light. I'm proud of that person. We both are, even if your father struggles to say it. After we hung up, I walked through the store one more time, turning off lights, checking locks. On the wall near the entrance hung a framed photo from our grand opening, all of us together. Employees and family, smiling and exhausted and hopeful. Below it, a small plaque read, "Built on loyalty, trust, and the belief that family means treating people right." I turned off the final light and locked the door. Tomorrow we'd open again. Customers would come. Problems would arise. Challenges would appear. But I'd face them all as someone who'd learned the hardest lesson. Your worth isn't determined by who claims you or what you're given. It's determined by what you build, how you treat people, and whether you have the courage to walk away from anything, even family, that tries to make you smaller than you are. That Thanksgiving dinner didn't destroy me. It freed me. And in the end, that was the greatest gift my father ever gave me, even if he never meant to. 3 years later, November 2025, the invitation sat on my desk for 3 weeks before I decided to accept it. Portland Small Business Association Annual Gala, honoring women entrepreneurs. Special recognition, Sophia Mitchell Thornton, keynote. Speaker they wanted me to speak, to share my story with 300 business owners, aspiring entrepreneurs, and community leaders. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 years ago, I'd been crying in my home office, convinced my career was over. Now I was being asked to inspire others. You have to do it, Daniel insisted, reading over my shoulder. How many emails have you gotten from women in similar situations? 50? 100? 137, I corrected. Rachel's been helping me answer them. Rachel, the young woman who'd walked into my store 2 years ago, now managed our newest location. She'd started her own plumbing supply business, run it successfully for 18 months, then sold it to a competitor for a modest profit. When she approached me about joining Sophia's Superior Hardware as a management partner, I'd said yes immediately. She understood what it meant to rebuild from betrayal. So you know there are women out there who need to hear this. Daniel continued. Women who think their story ends with family betrayal. You can show them it doesn't. He was right. He was always right about these things. Fine. I'll do it. The night of the gala, December 5th, 2025, I stood backstage in a navy dress that Emma had helped me pick out. My hands were shaking. Public speaking had never been my strength. I was a behind-the-scenes operator, not a spotlight person. Mom, you've got this, Emma whispered, squeezing my hand. At 14, she'd become my biggest cheerleader. She'd also become an impressive young woman, confident, kind, and fiercely protective of the underdog. I wondered sometimes if watching my journey had shaped her, taught her something about resilience that I could never have taught through words alone. The MC introduced me. Tonight's keynote speaker needs no introduction to the Portland business community. In just 3 years, she's built a hardware empire from the ground up, employing over 60 people across 4 locations. But more importantly, she's built a reputation for integrity, compassion, and the courage to start over when life doesn't go as planned. Please welcome Sophia Mitchell Thornton. I walked onto the stage to applause. The lights were bright. I could see silhouettes of people but not faces, which helped my nerves. Good evening, I began, my voice steadier than I expected. 3 years ago, I sat at my parents' Thanksgiving table and had my heart broken in a way I never imagined possible. My father announced he was selling the family business I'd spent 7 years building, and that I was getting nothing. Not a share, not a stake. Nothing but a severance package and the title of employee. I could feel the room's energy shift. People leaned forward. I want to tell you that I handled it with grace, that I was mature and understanding, but that would be a lie. I was devastated. I was furious. I cried for weeks. I questioned everything, my judgment, my worth, my entire career. I wondered if I'd wasted the best years of my professional life on a dream that was never really mine. I paused, taking a breath. But somewhere between the crying and the anger, something else emerged. Clarity. I realized that the business I'd been building wasn't just my father's dream with my labor. It was my vision, my relationships, my innovations that had transformed a struggling hardware store into a thriving business. And if I could do it once for someone else, I could do it again for myself. I told them about the terrifying first steps, the savings account emptied, the employees who took a chance on me, the customers who showed up on opening day, the contractors who gave me credit when banks wouldn't. But here's what I really want you to know, I continued, feeling my passion rise. Starting over at 37 with 2 kids, a mortgage, and no safety net was the scariest thing I've ever done. But it was also the most liberating, because for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't building someone else's legacy. I was building my own. I shared the numbers, revenue growth, employee satisfaction scores, community impact metrics. But I also shared the human stories. Linda, who'd retired last year with a profit-sharing bonus that let her travel to Spain like she'd always dreamed. Tom, who'd been able to send his daughter to college debt-free because of our education benefits. Sarah, who'd been promoted to regional manager and was now mentoring other young women in the trades. The business metrics matter, I said, but they're not what gets me out of bed every morning. What drives me is knowing that when my employees go home at night, they feel valued. When customers walk into our stores, they feel respected. When young people come to our workshops, they see possibilities they didn't know existed. I talked about the difficult parts too, the sleepless nights, the close calls with payroll, the time I seriously considered giving up. Success isn't a straight line, I told them. It's a messy, complicated journey with setbacks and detours. But if you stay true to your values and treat people right, you'll build something that lasts. Then I addressed the elephant in the room. Family. Many of you know my story involves family betrayal. People ask me all the time, have you forgiven your father? The honest answer is, I'm working on it. Forgiveness isn't a destination, it's a process. Some days I'm further along than others. But here's what I've learned. You don't need closure from the people who hurt you to move forward. You don't need their apology to heal. You don't need their approval to succeed. My voice caught slightly. My father and I have a relationship now. It's different, smaller, more honest. He's learning to see me as an equal instead of an employee. I'm learning to see him as a flawed human instead of a villain. It's not perfect, but it's real. And sometimes real is more valuable than perfect. I wrapped up my speech with advice for anyone facing their own Thanksgiving dinner moment. Those shocking betrayals that make you question everything. First, feel your feelings. Don't rush past the grief and anger. They're valid, and they're part of processing trauma. Second, document everything. I'm not saying plan for litigation, but protect yourself with facts and records. Third, build your network before you need it. The relationships I'd cultivated over 7 years were what saved me. People helped because I'd helped them. Fourth, start before you're ready. I was terrified on opening day. I'm still terrified sometimes. Do it anyway. And finally, remember that being cut out of someone else's legacy gives you the freedom to build your own. The applause when I finished was thunderous. People stood. I saw women crying. In that moment, I understood why Daniel had pushed me to do this. Not for my ego, but because stories of survival and success matter. They give people hope when their own stories feel hopeless. After the speech, I was swarmed. Women wanted to share their stories, ask for advice, get my contact information. I stayed for 2 hours, listening, encouraging, connecting people with resources. One woman, probably in her 60s, waited until the crowd thinned. "I'm Margaret," she said. "I own a small catering business. My son is my business partner, or I thought he was. Last week I found out he's been embezzling from our company account. $70,000 over 3 years. My heart broke for her. "Margaret, I'm so sorry." I called the police. "He's my son, but he stole from me, from our employees, from our clients' deposits. And you know what the worst part is? I still love him. I hate what he did, but I love him. How do you reconcile that?" I took her hand. "You don't. You just hold both truths at the same time. You can love someone and still hold them accountable. You can grieve the relationship you thought you had while protecting yourself from further harm. It's not either or. It's both and." She started crying. "Everyone keeps saying I should drop the charges because he's family. But if he wasn't family, nobody would question it." Exactly. Family doesn't give you permission to abuse people. Love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. You did the right thing, even though it's the hardest thing. We talked for another 20 minutes. I gave her Rachel's number. Rachel had dealt with family legal issues during her own business journey. I gave her the name of a therapist who specialized in family business conflicts. I told her about a support group for women business owners dealing with betrayal. "You're not alone," I promised her. "And you're stronger than you think. You're already proving that by being here tonight instead of hiding at home." When I finally left the venue, Daniel was waiting in the car with the kids asleep in the back seat. "How'd it go?" he asked. "Hard, good, important." I buckled my seatbelt. "A woman told me her son embezzled from her company. She pressed charges and everyone's telling her she's a bad mother." Daniel shook his head. "People love to judge situations they've never experienced." Exactly. I looked back at Emma and Jack, peaceful in their sleep. I hope our kids never have to learn these lessons the hard way. "But if they do," Daniel said, pulling out of the parking lot, "they'll have you as an example of how to handle it with dignity." 2 weeks later, December 19th, my parents arrived in Portland for Christmas. They stayed at a hotel downtown, respecting the boundaries I'd set. On their first evening, we met at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant neither of us had history with. Mom looked older, but happier. Dad looked older and tired. The heart attack had changed him physically, but something else had changed him internally too. He seemed smaller somehow, less certain. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, Mom." "Sophia?" Dad stood awkwardly, like he wasn't sure if he should hug me. I made the decision for him, giving him a brief, polite hug. With Mom, it lasted longer. We ordered food, made small talk about their Arizona house, the weather, Jack's basketball season. The conversation felt stilted, like we were all afraid to say the wrong thing. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. "I saw your speech. Someone recorded it and posted it online. It has over 2 million views. I didn't know that. I genuinely didn't. Social media wasn't really my thing. You were impressive, articulate, strong." He paused. "You talked about me, about what I did." "I talked about what happened, yes. People in the comments, they said terrible things about me. They called me every name in the book. Some said I didn't deserve to have you as a daughter. I waited, unsure where this was going. They were right, he said quietly. I didn't deserve you. I still don't. But I'm grateful that you're giving me a chance to try. Mom touched his hand. This was clearly something they'd rehearsed, words he'd been practicing. I was scared, Dad continued. You were so good at running the business, better than I ever was. I felt obsolete, like I didn't matter anymore. So when the buyer approached with that offer, I saw it as my last chance to prove I was still the one in charge. It wasn't about the money. Well, not entirely. It was about ego, about proving that it was still my business, my decision, my power. That's not a justification, I said carefully. That's an explanation. They're different things. I know. I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm trying to be honest about why I did something unforgivable. He looked directly at me for the first time. I broke your trust. I broke our family. And watching you succeed without me has been both the proudest and most humiliating experience of my life. Proud because you're my father, I said. Humiliated because you could have been part of it. Yes. We sat in silence for a moment. The waiter brought our food. None of us touched it immediately. I don't know if I can fully forgive you, I said honestly. Maybe someday. But right now, the best I can offer is this. I don't hate you. I don't wish you harm. I'm open to rebuilding something between us, but it has to be built on honesty and respect. Not the old dynamic where you're the boss and I'm the subordinate daughter. Equals or nothing. Equals. Dad agreed, his voice hoarse. I can do that. I'll try to do that. Mom had been quiet, but now she spoke. Sophia, honey, I need to say something too. I was complicit in your father's betrayal. I knew what he was planning, and I convinced myself it wasn't my place to interfere. But that was cowardice dressed up as respecting his authority. I should have fought for you. I should have been your mother first and his wife second. I failed you and I'm sorry. Her apology landed differently than Dad's. Maybe because it came without explanations or justifications. It was clean and direct. Thank you, Mom. That means a lot. We ate dinner. The conversation gradually became easier. We talked about the grandkids, about the business, about Mom's new volunteering at an animal shelter in Scottsdale. By dessert, we were almost comfortable. Can we see the store? Dad asked as we were leaving. I've driven by, but I've never gone inside. I didn't think I'd be welcome. I considered it. Tomorrow. Come by around 10. I'll give you the full tour. The next morning, I warned my staff that my parents were coming. Linda immediately started stress cleaning, even though the store was already spotless. Linda, it's fine. You don't need to. Mija, I need this place to be perfect when that man walks in here. He needs to see what you built, what we built together. When my parents arrived, I watched my father's face as he took in Sophia's superior hardware. The welcoming entrance with the community bulletin board, covered in thank you notes from customers. The kids' workshop area where a class was currently learning to build birdhouses. The employee break room with photos of staff and their families. The efficient layout that maximized space without feeling cramped. This is... Dad trailed off. Different from Mitchell and Daughters? I supplied. Better. It's better, Sophia. It feels warm. Alive. Like a place people want to be, not just a place they shop. I introduced them to employees. Linda was professionally polite but cool. Rachel was friendly but distant. Others fell somewhere in between. Dad noticed. They're loyal to you, he observed. Really loyal. That's rare. It's not rare when you treat people well, I replied. It's the natural result of respect. We walked through all 4 locations that day. By the end, Dad was quiet, processing. Mom was emotional, seeing tangibly what I'd built from the ashes of my old life. I have something for you, Dad said as we stood in the parking lot of our newest location. He pulled out an envelope. I should have done this 2 years ago. Better late than never. Inside was a check, made out to me, for $100,000. Dad, I don't want... It's not charity. It's your share. The portion you should have gotten from the sale. I've been setting money aside every month. I know it's not enough. It's nowhere near what you deserved. But it's what I can give you now. Use it for the business. Use it for the kids' college. Use it to burn in your fireplace if that makes you feel better. But please take it. I looked at the check. $100,000. 2 years ago, it would have changed everything. Now I'd succeeded without it. I'll take it, I said. Not because I need it, but because you need to give it. and I'll put it in an education fund for Emma and Jack. They can use it for college or to start their own businesses someday." Dad nodded, looking relieved. Christmas Eve, we all gathered at my house, my first time hosting my parents in 3 years. Marcus and Jennifer came too, their relationship still healing but improving. The kids were excited to see their grandparents, and that joy was infectious. We didn't pretend everything was fixed. We didn't act like the past 3 years hadn't happened, but we were there, together, trying, and trying with something. After dinner, Emma asked if she could share something. At 14, she was becoming thoughtful and articulate in ways that constantly surprised me. "I want to say something to Grandpa," she announced. Everyone stopped talking. "Emma, honey, you don't have to," I started. "I want to." She turned to my father. "Grandpa, I was really mad at you for a long time. I didn't understand why you hurt Mom. But watching her build the business, watching her be sad and then strong and then successful, I learned something important. I learned that the hardest things that happen to us can teach us the most. Mom says you gave her the greatest gift even though you didn't mean to. You set her free, and because of that, Jack and I got to see what real strength looks like. We got to learn about starting over and not giving up and building something meaningful. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, thank you for messing up, because Mom's success wouldn't have happened without it." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Even Jack looked moved, and he was at that teenage boy stage where showing emotion wasn't cool. Dad couldn't speak. He just nodded, tears streaming down his face. That night, after everyone left, Daniel and I sat on the couch drinking wine and decompressing. "Your daughter is wise beyond her years," he said. "Our daughter. And yes, she is. Sometimes I forget she's only 14. Do you think you'll ever fully forgive him?" I thought about it. I think I already have, mostly. Not because he deserves it, but because holding on to that anger was exhausting. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing. It just means I'm not carrying the weight of his choices anymore. You've grown so much these past 3 years. We both have. You could have resented me for dragging our family through chaos. You could have pressured me to take the safe route, get a regular job, not risk everything. But you never did, because I love you, and because I believe in you. Those aren't complicated reasons. They're just the truth. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the Christmas tree lights twinkle. "What's next?" Daniel asked. "You've conquered hardware retail in Portland. What's the next dream?" "Honestly, I want to franchise. I want women like Rachel and Margaret to be able to open their own Sophia's Superior hardware stores with support and training. I want to create a network of women-owned hardware stores that prioritize people over profits, or rather, that understand treating people right is the best profit strategy. That's ambitious, I know. But 3 years ago, opening one store seemed impossible. Now we have 4, so why not dream bigger? Why not indeed? The next year flew by in a blur of planning, strategizing, and building. By October 2026, we'd finalized our franchise model. By January 2027, we had our first 2 franchisees. Rachel opened a location in Salem, and Margaret, recovered from her son's betrayal, opened one in Eugene. My father attended both grand openings, standing in the back, watching quietly. Afterward, he approached me. "You're changing the industry," he said. "You're proving that hardware stores don't have to be cold, masculine spaces focused only on transactions. You're making them community hubs. I wish I'd understood that when I had the chance." "You can still be part of it," I offered. Not as an owner or decision maker, but as a mentor. "Some of our franchisees would benefit from your decades of industry experience." His eyes lit up. "You'd trust me with that?" "With supervision and clear boundaries." "Yes. You made mistakes, Dad, but you also built something that lasted 42 years. That knowledge has value." And so my father became a consultant for Sophia's Superior hardware franchisees. He taught them about vendor relationships, inventory management, seasonal planning. He was good at it, better than I expected. And having a role, being useful again, seemed to complete some healing in him that apologies alone couldn't achieve. By late 2027, we had 12 franchises across Oregon and Washington. The original Sophia's Superior. Hardware had become a training center where franchisees learned our model before opening their own stores. November 27th, 2027. The 4th anniversary of that catastrophic Thanksgiving dinner. I received an unexpected package. Inside was a framed photograph of the original Mitchell & Daughters hardware, taken in 1981 when my grandfather first opened it. On the back, in my father's handwriting, "Your grandfather would be proud of what you've built. More importantly, I'm proud, not because you succeeded, but because you succeeded with integrity, compassion, and values I should have upheld but didn't. You didn't just save yourself. You showed me what legacy really means. It's not about property or money. It's about how you treat people and what you teach the next generation. Thank you for teaching me that lesson, even though I was a terrible student. Love, Dad." I hung it in my office, right next to our grand opening photo. Past and present. Betrayal and redemption. Endings and beginnings. That Thanksgiving, we hosted dinner at our home. My parents, Marcus and Jennifer and their new baby. Daniel's family, Linda and her husband. Rachel and her partner. And a dozen employees who'd become like family. As I looked around the table, I thought about that awful Thanksgiving 4 years ago, the shock, the betrayal, the devastation. If someone had told me then that it would lead to this, to success beyond my imagination, to a healed family, to a business model that was changing women's lives, I wouldn't have believed them. But here we were. "What are you thankful for this year, Mom?" Emma asked, now 16 and wise beyond her years. "I'm thankful for betrayal," I said honestly. Everyone looked surprised. "I'm thankful that the worst thing that ever happened to me turned out to be the best thing in disguise. I'm thankful for the courage to start over. I'm thankful for every person at this table who supported me, believed in me, and helped me build something meaningful. And I'm thankful that sometimes, when one door slams in your face, you don't just find another door. You build your own house." Dad raised his glass. "To Sophia, for teaching us all that legacy isn't inherited, it's earned." "To Sophia," everyone chorused. I looked at my reflection in my wine glass and barely recognized the woman looking back. She was stronger, wiser, more confident than the devastated 37-year-old who'd fled her parents' house 4 years ago. That woman had believed her worth came from family approval and promised inheritance. This woman knew her worth came from her own hands, heart and determination, and that made all the difference. Final author's note. This story, while fictional, explores real themes of family betrayal, business succession, and personal resilience. If you're experiencing something similar, whether in a family business or any situation where people you trust have betrayed you, please know. Your feelings are valid. You're not obligated to maintain toxic relationships. Even with family, starting over is terrifying, but possible success is the best response to betrayal. Forgiveness is for you, not them, and it happens on your timeline. And most importantly, you are not defined by what was done to you. You're defined by how you respond.